What happens when a sacred sanctuary becomes the scene of a chilling act of betrayal and violence? A place of worship, where faith should bring solace and unity, is shattered by a confrontation that leaves everyone stunned. This story is not just about a pastor or a congregation, it's about secrets, lies in a moment that would forever alter lives. It will make you question everything you thought you knew about trust, relationships, and faith. And it doesn't end where you think it will. Stay with me until the very last moment, because this tale takes a shocking turn that even the most seasoned investigators never saw coming. It was a bright Sunday morning at the Harmony Light Pentecostal Church in Houston. The church, known for its towering stained glass windows and the welcoming hum of hymns, stood as a beacon of hope for the community. Inside, congregants filled the pews, their voices blending harmoniously with the melodies of the choir. Sunlight streamed through the vivid stained glass, casting colorful reflections across the congregation. It was supposed to be a day of peace, a moment for worship and renewal. But as the service unfolded, the calm would shatter into chaos. Harmony Light, a sanctuary meant for healing and reflection, would become the scene of a shocking act that no one in the congregation could have anticipated. At the heart of this story is Pastor Daniel Harris. Charismatic and deeply admired, Pastor Harris was more than a preacher. He was a community leader, a mentor, and, for many, a source of inspiration. His sermons were powerful, his demeanor approachable, and his dedication to his flock unwavering. But beneath the surface of his public persona lay a man carrying heavy secrets. Then there was Monica Reed, fierce, independent, and unapologetically bold. Monica had a complicated history with Pastor Harris. Their connection was intense, marked by moments of passion, but also turbulence. For years, she had lived in the shadow of his life, keeping secrets that would eventually boil over in ways no one expected. And finally, we have Claire Harris, the pastor's devoted wife. Known for her grace and poise, Claire was the backbone of the ministry, tirelessly supporting her husband and their congregation. Her love for Daniel was evident to all, and together they appeared to be the perfect team, united in their mission to uplift their community. But appearances can be deceiving. As the morning service at Harmony Light unfolded, these three lives and the congregation around them would collide in a way that no one could have foreseen. Betrayal, heartbreak, and violence were about to be laid bare right there in the sacred space of the church. Before Pastor Daniel Harris became a respected spiritual leader, his life was anything but easy. Growing up in Houston's rougher neighborhoods, Daniel faced a childhood riddled with challenges. Raised in a single-parent home, he often found himself caught between the temptations of the streets and the strong values his mother worked tirelessly to instill in him. As a teenager, Daniel flirted with trouble, dabbling in petty thefts and running with the wrong crowd. But even in his darkest moments, those who knew him saw something different, a spark of potential, an undeniable charisma that could captivate anyone. It was a chance encounter with a local pastor, Reverend Johnson, that altered Daniel's trajectory. Reverend Johnson saw the potential in the young man and offered him mentorship. Through guidance, prayer, and sheer determination, Daniel found a new path. He devoted himself to studying theology and worked tirelessly to reform his life. By his late 20s, he had not only earned his pastoral credentials, but had also built a reputation as an inspiring preacher with a gift for connecting with people. When he founded the Harmony Light Pentecostal Church, it quickly grew into one of the most vibrant congregations in Houston. But while Daniel's public image soared, his personal life was far more complicated. Years earlier, during a time of uncertainty in his journey, he met Monica Reed. Monica was everything Daniel admired and feared. She was bold, unapologetic, and fiercely independent. Their relationship began as a whirlwind romance, a secret bond that Daniel kept hidden from the public. But the affair didn't end when Daniel returned to his ministry. It only grew more complex. What started as a fleeting connection became something much more permanent when Monica gave birth to their daughter, Leah. Daniel's decision to keep Monica and Leah hidden was calculated. He believed revealing the truth would shatter his image and jeopardize the church he had worked so hard to build. Instead, he chose to lead a double life. To his congregation, he was the devoted pastor and loving husband to Claire. But behind closed doors, he met Monica in secret, providing financial support and promises of a future he had no intention of fulfilling. As Leah grew older, Monica's patience began to wear thin. Her demands for acknowledgement and recognition became more persistent. She wanted her daughter to know her father openly, to live without the shadow of secrecy. But each time Monica pushed for more, Daniel would offer hollow reassurances, promising he just needed more time. For Monica, time had run out. Was Monica driven to the edge by years of betrayal and emotional isolation? Or was there something more? Perhaps the financial stress of raising Leah alone compounded her feelings of resentment. Some wondered if her fiery temperament, combined with Daniel's inability to commit to the truth, created a volatile mix destined to explode. Others questioned whether Daniel's carefully curated public persona was hiding more than just this secret. Was there something darker beneath the polished surface? These questions remained unanswered for years, simmering beneath the surface of Daniel's life. And then, on that fateful Sunday morning, Monica made a decision that would expose every hidden truth in the most public and devastating way imaginable. What happened next would send shockwaves through the congregation, tearing apart families, friendships, and the very foundation of Harmony Light Pentecostal Church. It was a bright and hopeful Sunday morning at the Harmony Light Pentecostal Church in Houston. The congregation filled the pews, their voices harmonizing with the choir's hymns. Pastor Daniel Harris stood confidently at the altar, his voice commanding attention as he began his sermon. The light streaming through the stained glass windows painted the sanctuary in vivid colors, a symbol of peace and unity. But this peaceful facade about to be shattered in a way no one could have imagined. The double doors at the back of the church suddenly burst open. The sound echoed through the sanctuary, silencing the choir and freezing the congregation mid-verse. All heads turned toward the source of the disruption, and there, standing in the doorway, was Monica Reed. Her fiery presence was undeniable. Her eyes burned with a mixture of rage and desperation. In one hand, she clutched the small hand of a young girl. Her daughter, Leah, whose innocent face was filled with confusion. In the other hand, Monica held something far more chilling, a gun. Gasps rippled through the congregation as Monica stepped forward. The rhythmic click of her heels against the polished floor was the only sound in the otherwise silent room. The vibrant colors from the stained glass now seemed to mock the severity of the moment. Pastor Daniel froze at the pulpit, his usually composed demeanor faltering as he locked eyes with Monica. His carefully constructed double life was unraveling before his very eyes. "Daniel," Monica's voice rang out, cutting through the tension like a knife, "you can't hide anymore. Everyone here deserves to know the truth." Her words hung in the air, heavy with accusation. As the congregation exchanged bewildered looks, Monica turned her gaze toward the people who had trusted and admired Pastor Daniel. "This man," she continued, her voice rising, "has a daughter. My daughter. Our daughter." Stunned silence gave way to murmurs of disbelief. Claire Harris, sitting in the front pew, looked from Monica to her husband, her face a mask of shock and betrayal. The congregation watched in stunned fascination as Monica recounted the story of her relationship with Daniel, detailing the years of secrecy, broken promises, and the toll it had taken on her and Leah. Every word felt like a dagger, exposing the pastor's hidden life in the most public and humiliating way possible. As Monica's words grew more impassioned, the atmosphere in the church shifted. What had started as a confrontation now teetered on the edge of chaos. Pastor Daniel raised his hands in a placating gesture, his voice trembling as he tried to calm her. "Monica, please," he pleaded, "this isn't the place. Let's talk about this somewhere else." But Monica shook her head, her grip tightening on the gun. "No more lies, Daniel," she spat. "You've hidden us long enough. It's time everyone knows who you really are." The congregation, now fully aware of the gravity of the situation, began to panic. Some members attempted to inch toward the exits, while others sat frozen in their seats, too shocked to move. Monica, sensing the unease, waved the gun, warning everyone to stay put. Her voice cracked as she addressed Daniel directly. "Do you know what it's like to raise a child alone while you play the perfect husband? To see you stand here, week after week, preaching about honesty and faithfulness while living a lie." And then, in a moment that would haunt everyone present, Monica raised the gun and aimed it squarely at Daniel. Claire screamed, leaping from her seat in a futile attempt to intervene, but it was too late. The deafening sound of the first shot echoed through the sanctuary, followed by two more in rapid succession. Pastor Daniel staggered backward, crimson blooming across his white clerical robe, before collapsing to the floor near the altar. Pandemonium erupted. Congregants screamed and scrambled for the exits, their once sacred sanctuary now a scene of horror. Claire rushed to her husband's side, her hands trembling as she tried to staunch the bleeding. Leah stood frozen, tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the nightmare unfolding before her. Monica, her face a mixture of rage and regret, stood over Daniel's motionless body. The gun hung limply at her side, as if the gravity of her actions had only just begun to sink in. In the aftermath, questions lingered like the smoke from the gunshots. Who was Monica Reed, really? Was she a scorned woman pushed beyond her limits by years of lies and betrayal? Or was there something darker at play? And what about Pastor Daniel Harris? How many more secrets lay hidden beneath his polished image? As law enforcement arrived and Monica was taken into custody, the congregation was left grappling with a reality that was far more complicated than they had ever imagined. The answers to these questions would unfold in the days and weeks to come, but one thing was clear. This was a day the Harmony Light Pentecostal Church, and everyone in it, would never forget. The scene inside the Harmony Light Pentecostal Church that morning was one of utter chaos and disbelief. Monica Reed's entrance, with her daughter Leah and the weapon that would change everything, had already sent shockwaves through the congregation. But the true intensity of what unfolded next would leave an indelible mark on every soul present that day. Monica stood in the center aisle, her voice trembling but resolute, laying bare secrets that Pastor Daniel Harris had hidden for years. Her demands were clear. She wanted recognition, justice, and, most importantly, a public acknowledgement of their daughter, Leah. For Monica, this moment was years in the making. Years of feeling abandoned, lied to, and left to fend for herself, while Daniel enjoyed the public adoration of his congregation. Witness accounts painted a harrowing picture of the aftermath. Claire's anguished cries echoed through the sanctuary as she tried to stop the bleeding, her hands shaking as they pressed against Daniel's wounds. Leah, standing just feet away from her mother, was frozen in shock, her young mind unable to comprehend the violence she had just witnessed. And Monica, now realizing the enormity of what she had done, stood motionless, the gun hanging limply by her side. Tears streamed down her face as law enforcement arrived to take her into custody. While paramedics worked to stabilize Pastor Daniel and rush him to the hospital, police began their investigation. Their first priority was understanding what had driven Monica to such a public and violent act. Interviews with witnesses, congregants, and family members revealed a tangled web of secrets and lies that extended far beyond what anyone had initially imagined. Police quickly uncovered financial irregularities in the church's accounts. Over the years, Daniel had funneled large sums of money to Monica under the guise of charitable outreach. These payments, intended to support Leah, were carefully disguised within the church's financial records. But the truth was undeniable. Daniel had used the church's funds to maintain his secret double life. Further testimony from family members and close friends painted a picture of a man torn between two worlds. To the public, Pastor Daniel was a charismatic leader, a devoted husband, and a spiritual guide for his congregation. But behind closed doors, he struggled to balance the weight of his responsibilities with the demands of his personal life. Monica's increasing frustrations, coupled with Daniel's refusal to openly acknowledge Leah, created a volatile situation that had been building for years. Interviews with Monica shed light on her motivations. She described years of feeling marginalized, of watching Daniel build a life with Claire while her own daughter lived in the shadows. The financial support he provided was inconsistent and often came with vague promises that he would someday make things right. But that day never came. For Monica, confronting Daniel in the church wasn't just about exposing him. It was about reclaiming her dignity and ensuring that Leah's existence could no longer be denied. The police investigation also revealed how deeply Monica's actions had affected the congregation. Many members felt betrayed, questioning how they could have been so blind to the truth. Some described Daniel as a flawed but well-meaning man who let his personal failings spiral out of control. Others were less forgiving, viewing his actions as a gross abuse of trust and authority. As Pastor Daniel fought for his life in the hospital, the legal proceedings against Monica began. She faced multiple charges, including attempted murder and unlawful use of a firearm. Meanwhile, the congregation of Harmony Light Pentecostal Church was left to grapple with the fallout of that fateful Sunday. a day that had started in worship and ended in heartbreak. The truth that emerged from the investigation was clear. This was not a simple story of good and evil. It was a deeply human tragedy marked by betrayal, desperation, and choices that would haunt everyone involved for years to come. The events that transpired at the Harmony Light Pentecostal Church left an indelible mark on everyone involved. The once thriving church, known for its uplifting sermons and community outreach, had become the epicenter of a tragedy that shook Houston to its core. The aftermath was as complex as the events that led to the shooting, filled with consequences that rippled far beyond the church walls. Pastor Daniel Harris survived the attack, but his recovery was anything but simple. 3 gunshot wounds, 2 to his chest and 1 to his abdomen, had caused severe internal damage. He spent weeks in intensive care, followed by months of physical therapy to regain his strength. The once charismatic leader, known for his energy and presence, now faced a long and uncertain road to healing. For Daniel, the physical wounds were only part of the ordeal. The emotional and spiritual toll of the events was equally profound. The trust he had cultivated with his congregation had been shattered, leaving him grappling with the consequences of his actions and the pain he had caused to those closest to him. Meanwhile, Monica Reed was arrested at the scene and charged with attempted murder, among other offenses. Her mugshot quickly became a symbol of a story that divided public opinion. Some viewed Monica as a woman pushed to her breaking point, driven by years of lies, neglect, and unfulfilled promises. Others saw her as a dangerous individual whose actions endangered an entire congregation and traumatized her own daughter. The courtroom became a stage for heated debates about accountability, desperation, and justice. During her trial, Monica's defense painted a picture of a woman overwhelmed by emotional and financial stress. Testimonies from her friends and family described a mother who had fought tirelessly to provide for Leah while enduring years of secrecy and marginalization. Prosecutors, however, argued that Monica's actions were premeditated, a deliberate attempt to seek revenge on Daniel in the most public and humiliating way possible. Ultimately, Monica was convicted of attempted murder and sentenced to a lengthy prison term. The verdict sparked further debate, with some questioning whether the justice system had adequately considered the broader context of her actions. For Claire Harris, the aftermath was a journey of betrayal, resilience, and transformation. In the immediate weeks following the shooting, Claire retreated from public life, overwhelmed by the weight of her husband's deceit and the trauma of the attack. Yet, as time passed, she began to find strength in her faith and a renewed sense of purpose. Claire took on the monumental task of rebuilding her life, not as Pastor Daniel's wife, but as an advocate for transparency and accountability within church leadership. Claire became a voice for change, urging churches to adopt stricter policies to prevent the misuse of power and funds. She spoke at conferences and wrote articles, sharing her story as a cautionary tale. Her courage inspired others, and she quickly became a respected figure in the broader faith community. Despite everything, Claire chose to focus on hope and healing, proving that even in the face of betrayal, it's possible to find a path forward. The congregation of Harmony Light Pentecostal Church faced its own struggles. Attendance plummeted in the weeks following the shooting, as members grappled with feelings of betrayal and disillusionment. For many, the church had been a place of solace and community, but now it was a painful reminder of the trust that had been broken. In an effort to rebuild, the church leadership decided to rebrand entirely. Harmony Light became the Beacon of Hope Community Center, a place not just for worship but for outreach programs, counseling services, and initiatives aimed at fostering unity and transparency. Through these changes, the community began to heal slowly but surely. Former members returned, drawn by the church's renewed commitment to service and its acknowledgement of past mistakes. The rebranded center became a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even in the wake of tragedy, new beginnings are possible. But while the church moved forward, questions lingered. Was Monica's act one of desperation, fueled by years of neglect and broken promises? Or was it a calculated attempt to expose Daniel in the most public and dramatic way possible? Could this tragedy have been avoided if Daniel had made different choices? And what lessons can be learned from a story so deeply rooted in secrecy and betrayal? These questions remain unanswered, leaving room for reflection and discussion. The story of Monica Reed, Pastor Daniel Harris, And Claire Harris is not just a tale of personal failure, it's a complex narrative about power, trust, and the human cost of deception. It's a reminder that every choice we make can ripple outward, affecting more lives than we might ever realize. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you think Monica's actions were justified? Or do you believe there were better ways to handle her situation? Could Daniel have prevented this tragedy by being honest from the start? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more true crime stories that delve deep into the human stories behind the headlines. If this story captivated you, the tragedy, the secrets, and the unimaginable events that unfolded, don't let the conversation end here. Stories like these reveal the deepest complexities of human behavior and the profound impact of choices, trust, and betrayal. We want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe Monica's actions were driven by desperation, or were they calculated revenge? Could Pastor Daniel have prevented this tragedy if he had been honest from the start? And what about Claire? How do you think her journey from betrayal to leadership has shaped the future of Harmony Light? Share your perspective in the comments below. Your insights and opinions are what keep these discussions meaningful. And if you found this story compelling, make sure to hit that like button. It helps us bring more in-depth investigations and stories straight to you. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more true crime cases that uncover the darkest corners of human nature, the secrets we keep, and the decisions that change lives forever. Thank you for joining us today. Stay curious, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive into the human stories behind the headlines.